What is up, everybody? It is JT Sports. I am back, you guys, with another video, and I'm here with the special guest. I have my guy Juan Gotti on. What's going on, man?
What's going on, bro? First of all, I want to say I appreciate you for having me on. It's a blessing, and yeah, man.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you for coming on, man. A long time coming. So, on this video, you guys know I'm doing my training camp previews for 2021, trying to bring different people on to talk about their team, give us a different perspective because you guys know me, man. Like, I cover all 32 NFL teams. I can only know so much. So, it's a good amount of information that slips through the cracks. So it's always good to, connect with others. And my guy, Juan Gotti, I've been knowing him for like a year now. This has been a long time in the making. So before we begin, man, where can we find you at?
You can find me on YouTube, Juan Gotti Talking Sports. You can follow me on Instagram at Juan Gotti Sports Network, or you can follow my personal Instagram at Lil Juan __. Or I'm starting up a new podcast too. Got to works, but it's going to be on Apple Podcasts, and it's called Juan Gotti Talk. It's the show, and other than that, yeah, that's all my social medias.
So when we look at Washington going into training camp, like what is the position group that you have the most concerns about and that you have the least amount of concerns about?
Well, to start off with the easier part, the easiest concern that I don't have about is the defensive line. Defensive line is obviously one of the best, if not the best, group in the NFL. And concerns that I could have could be a lot. It could go from offensive line, not because the players are bad or anything, but just a whole bunch of new faces outside of Chase Ruley and Brandon Sherman, the only two returning veterans. You have a whole bunch of veterans and a mix of a rookie and Samuel Cosme from Texas that they're all new. So that could be a concern because you don't know how those guys are going to gel. Another group that could be a little concerning is the linebackers. It's not because we didn't use three starting linebackers, but the depth after that, you really don't know what you have. I mean, you have Kaliki Hudson from Michigan, you have David Mayo, who you assume could be a solid depth piece, or even John Bostic, who a lot of people don't want starting for us. So that can be another group that could be concerning. And also another group that could be concerning for us is the secondary, and then more specifically the safety group, because I know we have Cameron Curl, who was a stud from the 7th round pick last year. You have DeShazer Everett, Jeremy Reeves, and Landon Collins. But other than that, you don't know what you really have. I know you have Bobby McClain, but you don't know how those guys are going to gel yet again. But the most concerning group, honestly, for me, probably would be the offensive line, only because we don't know what we're going to get out of them.
So I want to elaborate on the defense because like it was kind of interesting because like me and a good amount of people out there, we expect Washington to be one of the best teams, if not have the best defense in the NFL this league. And you're kind of concerned maybe this team, from somebody like me who doesn't follow Washington as much as you do. We think that this defense pretty much is pretty good. We knew that they had some concerns at linebacker, but like what? So you don't trust the cornerback position that much? Because I know you guys lost Ronald Darby, who was really good. He signed with Denver. So like, why? What is it about the secondary that really concerns you? Like, is it the depth, or is it just the overall talent there?
Well, with the secondary, it's definitely the depth because outside of, like you were mentioning, we lost Ron. We regained that by getting, in my opinion, a better cornerback, signing him from Cincinnati, that being William Jackson III. I think he's better than Ronald Darby. You also have Kendall Fuller. But other than that, what depth pieces do we really have? We drafted Benjamin St-Juste, who I personally think has the ability to be that second outside corner. Then you move Kendall Fuller in the slot. But outside of that, who do you have in the cornerback position as far as substitutions and depth? You don't really have anybody. We got a guy from the Lions. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. I forgot his name, but he played for the Lions last year. He could be another solid piece. We have, I believe, Danny Johnson and Greg Stroman returning. But other than that, we really don't have any depth pieces in the cornerback specific position specifically. Now, like I said, with the safeties, that's a little bit more concerning for me personally, just because I don't know what I'm getting out of Landon Collins. Remember, he tore his Achilles last year. We don't know if he's going to start. The only person I'm really 100% confident in is Cameron Curl, our 7th round rookie stud from last year. Other than that, I really don't know what we're going to do. Free safety is wide open. Like I said, we got Bobby McClain from Miami. We drafted a guy by the name of Derek Forrest from Cincinnati. And we have a whole bunch of question marks at free safety. I mean, we can have DeShazer Everett playing it. We can have Jeremy Reeves playing it. We have a bunch of stuff there, but just not no one that's really going to take the cake. So safety is a little bit of concerning for me.
Appreciate it. All right. All right. So like when we look at the offensive line, what are some position battles that are going to be there?
Position battle is specifically for the offensive line, could be the left guard or left tackle. Left guard, we have Wes Schweitzer there from the Atlanta Falcons. Then we just got Eric Flowers back. We still have Sadiq Charles from last year that we drafted from LSU last year, and he could be another guy that could be competing for the left guard spot. But a lot of people got to remember we drafted him as a left tackle, and honestly, with him, being kind of small to play left tackle, everyone is counting him out. But I would not count him out at playing left tackle. But we do have Charles Leno that we just picked up from Chicago. We have returning Cornelius Lucas, and we have Samuel Cosme who can play left and right tackle. But like I said, I think left guard and probably left tackle are the two really position battles that we got to pay attention for in training camp this up and coming, just because it's there that are fighting for essentially two spots. Man, our depth at the offensive line is I have no worries about the depth, but just putting the starting five out there now after losing Morgan Moses, we don't really know what we're going to do. The only ones that, like I said, is safe and we know who's going to be there is our center Chase Roulier and our right guard Brandon Sheriff. Other than that, everything is wide open for everybody else.
All right, so we talked about the trenches. Now we got to get to the positions that everybody loves talking about, the wide receivers. So you got signed Curtis Samuel in free agency, the Ron Rivera Panthers, now the Washington Panthers. Some people are making a joke calling it that. But aside from Terry McLaurin and Curtis Samuel, what are some other wide receivers who need to have big training camps or could surprise people? Because Antonio Gandy Golden, man, was a guy who was supposed to have a big season last year. He didn't really see the field all that much. You have Steven Sims, who didn't really touch that much. So what's some other names out there that have to have a good training camp, not only to have a chance of getting PT, but also making the roster? And what are some guys who are kind of being underlooked who could surprise people?
Yeah, like you said, you alluded to Steven Sims and Antonio Gandy Golden. I really thought Antonio Gandy Golden was one of the steals of the last year's draft in the 4th round from Liberty. But starting off with him, he needs to have a big training camp because last year, not only was his rookie season riddled by injuries, and obviously he can't control that, but also when he was out there, he just lost. He had one good play, in my opinion, versus the Cleveland Browns last year in week 3 where he had a 30-yard reverse, but that's obviously not what he's known for doing. So like I said, I think he needs to have a big training camp in order to make this roster. Like I said, when I was doing my video about the roster position and specifically the wide receivers, I had him as a lock making this roster, but a lot of other people said he's going to get cut. And I would not be surprised at that because like I said, he did not do anything for us last year, but I only feel like he's going to make this roster only because he's a Ron Rivera guy that got drafted. You also alluded to Steven Sims, another guy who I'm highly upset about and was disappointed in last year. He had a phenomenal 2019 campaign his rookie year, and I really thought he was going to be that number 2 option alongside Terry McLaurin, but then he just didn't do anything last year. He had dropped punts, he had dropped catches, and he just was injured all last year too. And like I said, once again, injuries you really can't control, but once you get that chance to play, messing up easy drops and easy punt, catches, and you're dropping them, that's no excuse but on your own. And and with Steven Sims, I feel like honestly, once he started to drop the passes, he started to drop the punts, his confidence got down. And what happens when your confidence goes down to the football players, you're all in your own head, and that's going to help make you perform even worse. So I think that's the biggest thing with Steven Sims. He's another guy that needs to have a huge training camp to make this roster. Another guy that a lot of people are sleeping on is Cam Sims. I personally think Cam Sims needs to have a big roster, a big training camp to make this roster. Even though he did have a solid year last year, his biggest game coming versus the Pittsburgh Steelers, where he had the one-handed catch, and he also had the big screen on 3rd and 15 to move the chains. But other than that, he also, going along with his good plays, he also has a bunch of bad plays. He's inconsistent, especially in that Tampa Bay playoff game. Taylor Heineke at the quarterback position, first play of the game, wide open deep ball, he drops it. So the thing with Cam is not that he's not talented, it's just him being inconsistent. If he can be consistent, he could very well see himself being a lock on this roster. But since he's so inconsistent, one game he's good, the next game he has to work on that. And if he does, he's going to be on this roster. But if he doesn't, I could very well see him not making this roster. One more person that I want to talk about for the wide receiver position, who I personally think is severely underrated, is our rookie wide receiver from North Carolina, De'Ami Brown. I made a video on him, and I personally think he is a Terry McLaurin 2.0. I personally know I'm not the only one that thinks that either. The draft analysts and a lot of people out there that gets paid to do this kind of job, they actually have him compared to Terry McLaurin. A notable name being Chris Collinsworth. You could take that for what it's worth, or Kyle, what is his name? Kyle Colenhurst or something like that.
Colin Coward.
I forget his name. Yeah, Colin Coward, him. He's another guy that said he's a Terry McLaurin 2.0. So, like I said, I'm not the only one saying this. You have professionals that's saying that he is a Terry McLaurin 2.0, and I really see it in his game. He's very fast, has great hands, and he's another guy who I think we need to stop sleeping on. One more last person I want to talk about. I know I already said De'Ami was the last person, but Kelvin Harmon is another wide receiver for us that a lot of people are forgetting about because he tore his ACL. He was another guy like Steven Sims who had a solid 2019 campaign, and I don't want to say great 2019 campaign because that 2019 season was the worst I've been a Washington fan. We went 3-13, and it was just terrible. We fired our president and Bruce Allen. But like I said, with Kelvin Harmon, a lot of people are forgetting about him just because he tore his ACL, but I could see him making this roster. He needs to have a huge training camp, not only because he got hurt, but he wasn't drafted by Ron Rivera, so they don't know nothing about this guy. So in order for him to make this roster, I think he's going to have to work 10 times harder than anyone else.
Now, last three. Okay. Well, I just want to get to my favorite, the running back position. So just tell me the truth, because I want to draft Antonio Gibson and all my fantasy leagues. So the Washington going to do them dirty like how they did last year with this running back by committee, like who they had, like Peyton Barber or like a J.D. McKissick or something like that, man. Let's be honest, man. Give Antonio Gibson a workload. Like, can you agree with me on this? Do you feel like Washington's offensive coordinator severely underutilized Antonio Gibson? Because coming out of Memphis, he was like this wide receiver, running back hybrid, similar to like a Curtis Samuel when he was coming out of OSU. Like you can line him up at running back, you can line him up at slot. Well, Washington decides to make him a full-time running back, and this guy was really good when they finally started giving him touches. So, like, start of the year, he was in this committee thing. So, like, going into training camp, is he the RB1? Is he the guy, or is he still going to be in some competition?
Oh, definitely now going into year 2 of Scott Turner's offense, he's the bell cow. He's the running back one. And the reason why I would say the start of the year, Scott Turner really didn't use him as much is because, one, he's a rookie offensive caller himself, so he really was still trying to get his foot in the door, and then 2, he didn't know what he was working with in Antonio Gibson and our whole offense in general, because they were so young. And like I said, this was his first year, but once as the season go on, you could see, especially in that Cowboys game, would have been in the Pittsburgh game if he didn't get that turf toe injury. But just later down the season, you've seen him get more comfortable with using Antonio Gibson, him being Scott Turner, the offensive play caller. So yeah, definitely for sure, he is the running back one headed into training camp. But like I said, once again, at the beginning of the year, they weren't comfortable with using him, and that's no fault of theirs because they don't know the guy. And like I said, he was a young play caller himself. But definitely year 2, he is running back one, and he's going to get used more in the passing game, but definitely running back one for sure.
So last two positions, tight end, quarterback. We can talk about tight end first. So we know Logan Thomas was a big surprise, converted quarterback coming out of Virginia Tech, bounced around a little bit, spent time Arizona, recently Detroit. He was, in certain cases, the second best target in the passing game at times. So is there going to be tight end competition for him, or is he still going to be the main guy at tight end?
Yeah, so like you alluded to, he was at times, I believe, for the whole season, really, he was our best second option outside of maybe J.D. McKissick, the running back. But yeah, with Logan Thomas, he's the clear-cut number one, at least to start the season. Now, we did draft John Bates out of Boise State, who really could be a solid piece for us, another 1-2 punch with Logan Thomas once he gets his foot in the door and once he get more comfortable, because he came onto our team after getting drafted in the 4th, 5th round, becoming a blocking tight end. But then when we got the OTAs and mini camps, the coaching staff, the offensive and then our tight end coach was really, really surprised with his ability to catch the ball. Pete Honer is his name, the tight end coach. He came out in a press conference and said he was really, really surprised the way that he was effective in the passing game, that being John Bates. And he could really be some competition for Logan Thomas, but Logan Thomas is the clear-cut number one. We have international guy. I know you probably know his name, but Samus Reyes, who from Chile, who we really think could be something, but he has to, get more comfortable in the NFL and obviously learn the game. He's a developmental project who's going to probably take 3 to 5 years to even develop fully. And
is he part of that? I don't mean to cut you off, but like, so the NFL has like this international program, like their first year, like they don't get cut. They just automatically go on the practice squad. It doesn't take up a practice squad spot or something like that. Is he in that program?
Yeah, I believe he was in the IIP program, but then I believe that we signed him to a real deal, so he's a part of like the real team. So he does have ability to get cut. I could be wrong on that, but yeah, he was a part of that program. But since we signed him to an actual contract, I think he's just going to be considered player. Same with our defensive lineman David Bada. I think he is on the other side of that though. I think he's a part of the program. Think he was safe only because he was a part of that program, honestly. But moving on with the tight end room, Samus Reyes, John Bates, and Logan Thomas. We also have another guy by the name of Ricky Seals-Jones, who could be another solid guy for us. But honestly, I think the first two, Logan Thomas and John Bates, are the only guys that we really need to concern ourselves with.
Now, we saved the best topic for last, and then after we address the quarterbacks, I'll ask you for your top 5 players to watch during training camp and preseason. Then we'll let you roll on out of here. Before we get into the quarterbacks, once again, tell the people where they can find you at. Shameless plug.
Well, you can find me, and once again, I want to say I appreciate you for having me on. You can find me mainly on YouTube at Juan Gotti Talkin Sports. We cover Washington football team and a little bit of NFL here and there, but mainly I'm here. I'm your guy for all your Washington football team coverage. So if you love the Washington football team just like me, or you just want to support another guy getting it out the mud, you can follow me at Juan Gotti Talkin Sports. And like I said, I'm starting up a podcast, the Juan Gotti Show, soon. And once again, JT, I appreciate you for having me on.
I appreciate you for coming on, man. So the quarterback, man. So a lot of Washington fans were unhappy that they brought in Ryan Fitzpatrick. And I was telling everybody, I said, listen, man, there wasn't really no better options out there, really. In Washington, I think they're trying to win now. I don't really think they were going to be in the business of wanting to trade up, trying to get one of the better quarterbacks in this year's draft. So I feel like Ryan Fitzpatrick was the best available quarterback out there. I feel like he's an upgrade from Alex Smith. No offense to Alex Smith, incredible story, incredible journey, what he endured last season, and especially, the fact that he could have lost his life. But you got Taylor Heinicke, who some people believe could be the future at QB. Heinicke, what Chase Young calls him. And then, I don't really know who's the third options and fourth options, but tell us about this quarterback situation, man. Who you think is going to win? Is there a legit battle?
Yeah, so with the quarterback room in Washington, it's a little fun, I guess, competition that Ron Rivera says is going to go on. Me personally, I don't think it's a real competition. But first, before I continue to talk about that, I'm going to tell you who's a part of our quarterback room. Obviously, we signed Ryan Fitzpatrick. We have Taylor Heinicke. We signed him this offseason. And we have a Carolina Panther, Kyle Allen, a guy who played a few good games for us before he, broke his ankle or dislocated his ankle versus the New York Giants. Now, after that, you have a guy like Steven Montez, who we really don't think is going to make this roster, but he's on there too that you can't really forget. We have even had talks about him converting to tight end too, and being a Taysom Hill kind of guy. So that's another guy that you got to, really watch out for. I don't think he's going to make the roster, but just to give you our full aspect of our quarterback room, that is it right there. So kicking it off with the true competition, and no offense to Steven Montez or Kyle Allen, but it's really a 2-man battle. Me personally, I think it's a 1-man battle just because Ron Rivera, I don't think he's going to give Taylor Heinicke a real shot to become the starter. He's only saying that in my opinion. Now, like I said, I could be wrong. This is just what I see on the outside looking in. I think he's just saying that to the fans of Washington, us over here saying, yeah, we're going to give him a real shot. There's going to be a real QB competition, but I personally don't think that's the case. I think he already has in his mind made up that he wants to start Ryan Fitzpatrick, and even even though like Ryan Fitzpatrick may be the starter, he's going to be on a short leash regardless. You know Ryan Fitzpatrick, man. He
Yeah, a
has
couple
games where he's
games.
phenomenal.
Yeah, man. He couple games, he was like an MVP. Then he starts to fizzle out, and you're like, dang, man, like what happened to you?
Yeah, so like I said, even though I think he is the clear-cut starter, I don't think Ron Rivera is going to give Taylor Heineke a fair chance to win this job. He's still going to eventually see some time, in my opinion, because Ryan Fitzpatrick at some point, you know what I mean? But if it was up to me, I'm wrong when I say that Ron Rivera isn't going to give Taylor Heineke a fair chance to get a job, get the starting job. I hope Ron Rivera really evaluates this thing correctly this summer, this training camp. But like I said, if it was up to me, I would start Taylor Heineke at quarterback, not only just because of what he did in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers game in the playoffs. That was incredible. You know, have his first career start versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the champions, and probably, if not the best defense, top 5 for sure. I see this guy being something for Washington and being our starting quarterback if he gets his chance. The guy knows this in this plus years, and he's just way better than Ryan Fitzpatrick, in my opinion. He can do more. You know what I'm saying? He can extend plays with his legs. He has the arm strength. He has the accuracy. You know what I'm saying? So I think Taylor Heineke is the perfect fit for Washington, at least, you know, considering the fact what's on the roster now. Who knows if we draft the guy or if we trade for Aaron Rodgers or something like that later down the line. But counting the fact what's on this roster now, I think Taylor Heineke gives us the best chance to win. I really don't like the Ryan Fitzpatrick move when it first happened, but obviously, what am I going to do about it now? He grew on me, and like I said, if Ryan Fitzpatrick is the guy, I'm going to root for him. But if it was up to me, I would personally give the nod to Taylor Heineke just because I feel like he gives us the better chance to win.
All right, so before we let you go, give us your 5 players that you're going to be watching during training camp for Washington in the preseason.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously I'm going to watch the whole team and see what everyone is going to do, but considering the fact that most of the starters won't play, like Chase Young, like Terry, like Antonio Gibson, like Montez Sweat, Deron Payne Johnson, now like all those guys, obviously they won't play. But the 5 people that I'm going excited to see in training camp and preseason is Benjamin St-Juste, our cornerback in the 4th round from Minnesota, Canadian guy. He shut down Terry McLaurin, and that's the only you take it with a grain of salt. I know it was OTAs and mini camp. It was just practice. But he's the only guy, and I'm not really, you know, sizing Terry McLaurin or anything, but he's the only guy that I've really seen strap Terry McLaurin. He even did the Allen Iverson to Tyronn Lue step over in him in practice. So he's that guy that I would love to see make this roster and be the outside cornerback number 2. So I'm excited to see what he can do. I'm also excited to see what Dyami Brown could do for us. I really think he could be that number 2 option for us, possibly, if he develops right, and he can be a guy that can go out there and play. And like Ron Rivera said about Dyami, he doesn't really see him as being just an outside receiver. He likes to use him all around the board. And obviously that's what we can do with all 3 of our receivers, Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel, and including Dyami Brown. Another guy that I'm excited to see that I did not mention earlier in the video is Dax Milne. He's a 7th round pick from BYU. He was Zach Wilson's number 1 option there at BYU. I'm excited to see what he can do, because a lot of people think that he can be our number 1 slot option out besides Adam Humphries that we got from Tennessee. And like I said, I really do think he can be something special in probably year 2 or year 3 of his career, probably not this year. Other than that, I'm excited to see Kelvin Harmon, because I really want to see how he's going to be coming back off of his torn ACL. And other than that, I really think that's it from the offensive side of the ball. And probably if I want to go defense, I want to see our depth pieces, William Bradley King and Shaka Toney. And obviously, how could I leave him out? I want to see Jamin Davis to see what he can do, being our 1st round draft pick from Kentucky. And other than that, I think that's all the people that I wanted to see. I know I probably went over 5, but that's what happens when you get me talking about the Washington football team, man.
Yeah, man. So before we let you go, one more time, tell the people where they can find you at.
Yeah, so you can find me here on YouTube at Juan Gotti Talking Sports. I'm your man when it comes to Washington football team talk. If you're a Washington football or just an NFL fan and enjoy NFL talk, real unbiased NFL talk, and watch the football team talk, give me a follow or subscribe on the YouTube at Juan Gotti Talking Sports, and I appreciate it one last time.
Thank you for coming on, man, and For all you guys watching, make sure that you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel. Also, make sure to subscribe to my guy, Juan Gotti Talking Sports. I'll have his channel linked down in the description, in the comment section down below. It will be the pinned comment. And thank you for coming on, man.
I appreciate you for having me on, man.